started, of course.
Bittersweet Herbals, where the taste is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com. Bittersweet Herbals, where the taste is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Yes, family, large up yourself, big up yourself. You know what it is. Your host, Selah, Shalom, chiming in. You know what I mean? All praise to the Creator. We got a little lecture on the drop. Had to get this one early because I got some stuff to do later. So I said, let me go ahead and knock this out the box early while I'm fresh. You dig? All right. It's been a minute since I've been on this program. Back on Streamlabs. We back at it again. You know how we do. Let me see if I can drop this rhythm real quick, yeah? There we go. Boom. Alright, so yeah. Y'all know what it is. The name of this one is called The Cosmological Science, Archaeology, and Prophecy of the Creator. This is basically what I was going to present in the debate with Neftali. So I just went ahead and just go ahead and put the presentation together. It's pretty lengthy, but I'm going to just go through it, you know what I mean? It probably would have been set up as rounds, but I'm going to just go through it and just read through it. You dig? Peace to the family. Make sure to hit them likes when you come in. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me clearly before I get started so there don't be no interruptions, yeah. See the fam chiming in. Shout out to the God Malachi Maccabee. He doing his live presentation right now. You know what I mean? Stand on the necks of these false gods. Elijah Messiah, BC Messiah, Sharice Messiah, Sheba Messiah. See the fam chiming in. Alright, so we got a one in the chat. Sounds good. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. Alright, so here we go. Let me share my screen. And we're going to get this thing popping. Alright, hold on before I do that. Make sure. Alright, them ones looking good. Alright, just want to make sure we're looking good in the chizzy. Make sure we're looking good in the chizzy. Let's get it. Let's get it, fam. Let's do it. Alright, as you can see, today's topic, the science of creation in the Oahspe Bible, the cosmological science, archaeology, and prophecy of the Creator. So now, let's get into it. Oahspe Bible, Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 1, verse 1, it states, the same principles apply to all the stars, suns, planets, and moons, but differing in manifestation on account of size, motion, density, and relative place. So right here, the Oahspe is telling you that the cosmological order falls under one common principle of how things are created, generated, inhabited, worlds are inhabited. It's one principal order. That's what it's saying right here. So it's not many different ways of creating. It's one principal way. So now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The ingredients of creation. Before we can even talk about creation, we got to talk about the ingredients, that which makes up creation. And that which makes up creation is the periodic table of elements. These are the ingredients to creating celestial bodies, terrestrial bodies, sun, moon, stars, and planets. So now, Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 5, states, observe, O man, as the farmer sows corn in one place, wheat in another, flax in yet another, everything in a separate place. So it's giving you context right here. Even so does Jehovah store the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place. The substance of iron in one place, the substance of stones in another, the substance of vegetable kingdom in another, And likewise for the substance of the animal kingdom, and the oils and sand. For he has places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. These that thou saw are the Jaya, the Aja, and the nebula, and amidst them in places there is Semu also. So basically what this verse is telling you is that the same way we have a farmer who separates his crops in different localities, the same way the Creator has ingredients for creating worlds in localities in the cosmos within the frame. Like this is an example. Like these are like cosmic dust clouds, and these will make up that which we will call corporeal worlds. These are the gases, the vapors for creating these worlds. All minerals are expressed in gases. So the same iron, gold, nickel, all that is expressed in a gas state. So again, as it states, as a farmer sows corn in one place, wheat in another, and flax in yet another, everything in its separate place. Even so does Jehovah store the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place. See that? They go to context. The substance of iron in one place, the substance of stones in another, the substance of the vegetable kingdom in another, and likewise for the substance of the animal kingdom, and the oils and sand. For he has places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. These that thou saw are the Jaya, the Aja, and the nebula, and amidst them in places there is Semu also. So they're basically talking about the ingredients for creating worlds. The basis, the periodic table of elements. Now, here's a precept to that. Chapter 2, verse 4. This is in the book of Cosmological and Prophecy. Here is found iron, copper, granite, water, lead, clay, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and various other kinds of corporeal substances, as known on the earth. And besides these, millions of things not known on the earth. And the ether, holds them in solution. See that? Ether holds them in solution. Even in the same way that the air holds the substance of clouds, which is water in solution. And as some clouds are so rarefied as to be imperishable, while others are opaque and even black, so are the comparative conditions of ethereal. So again, this is just a precept to show you that in the atmosphere, in the ether, there is iron, copper, all the minerals expressed on earth is in the atmosphere, in a gaseous state, in a state like this, prior to creating worlds. These are the dust particles, the atmospheric particles prior to creating worlds. Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 2, verse 1. There are two known things in the universe, ether and corpor. Ether is a gas. Corpor is solid. Corpor, what we would consider sun, moon, stars, and planets. Ether is the force that creates sun, moon, stars, and planets. So what is ether? Book of Oahspe Bible, Book of Jehovah, chapter 2, verse 5, it states, verse 5. For the substance of my etherian worlds I created eth, the most rarefied. Out of eth I made them, and I made eth the most subtilest of all created things, and I gave it power and place, not only by itself, but also power to penetrate and exist within all things, even within the corporeal worlds. And to eth I gave dominion over both atmospheria and corpor. So eth, what is eth exactly? Eth is a gas. It's the most rarefied. When we look at the word rarefied and define rarefied, look what it states over here in the corner. It says, of air, especially that of a high altitude. So we come back to the word ether, and it states here, for the substance of my etherian worlds, I created eth, the most rarefied, meaning the most highest altitude, and it's air. It's a condensity of air. So we're not talking about nothing spooky. We're talking about what? Air. A rarefied air, a high altitude air. What does rarefied mean? of air. See that? So ether is an air, especially that at high altitudes. And we told you that ether exists outside the atmosphere, the Earth and its atmosphere. So if it says high altitude, for example, like atmosphere layers. So we talk about ether, we're talking about an atmospheric layer in high altitude. The highest altitude of the atmosphere is the exosphere, and the ether exists outside of the atmosphere of the Earth. So the ether would exist beyond the exosphere, making it highly altitude and very rarefied, thin. That's the ether. So now, let's move on. How does creation start? How does this thing, what we call creation, start? Book of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 1 through 4 states, well, verse 1. All was, all is, all ever shall be. The all spoke in motion was, and is, and ever shall be. Being positive was called he and him. The all motion was his speech. So that's how creation begins, with motion. Now keep in mind, we describe the ingredients to creation. So when this motion kicks off, the ingredients, the minerals, the elements go in motion as well. That's why I had to start off showing you the ingredients of creation. So when the Creator creates motion, these ingredients, these minerals, these vapors, these elements, the periodic table of elements goes into motion. How does motion flow? That's the next question. How does motion flow? So once the Creator gives motion, how does motion flow? As you can see, we have an example right there. But let's get scripture. Book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 4 states, verse 4, by the power of rotation, swift driving at the periphery, I condense the atmospheric worlds that float in the firmament, and these become my corporeal worlds. So, how does motion flow? By the power of rotation. See that? The power of rotation. This is the essence of creation. So when the Creator says, all motion was his speech, this is the all motion that they're talking about. How does this generate? By the power of rotation. This is creation. This is the science. This is the real science of creation. This is the real science. And here's, I always use pictures to convey the message. Book of Jehovah, there you go. The all spoke and motion was. This is an example of the all motion speaking. It's not a man standing there doing this. This is Creator doing this. So now, in the midst of the vortices I made them, and by the power of the vortices I turned them on their axis, and carried them in the orbits I alluded to them. Wider than to the moons of a planet I have created the vortices, and carried the moon also. So right here, the key point is that the earth is in the middle of a vortex. The atmosphere is the vortex surrounding the earth. And just as it states here, in the midst of the vortices I made them. Made what? The planets, the celestial bodies, the terrestrial bodies. The earth. The earth is engulfed in the atmosphere, surrounded by the atmosphere. See that? Book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 2 through 4 states, man look upward in prayer, desiring to know the way of all created things, both on earth and in heaven. Jehovah answered him, saying, by the whirlwind I made as a sign to man of the manner of my created world. So the Creator is giving us context. He's giving us references in his creation for us to observe and say, look and behold, this is the manner of my created worlds. See that? That's a hurricane. That's a whirlwind over the water. And what does it say right here? Look at that. The whirlwind I made as a sign to man of the way of my created worlds. This is the whirlwind over water. This is a hurricane. We observe this. We can see this. This is the reference. Nature is the reference and the source we're dealing with here. We're not dealing with no, this is the PhD right here. Creator is the greatest PhD, and we're using the sources and the reference of the greatest PhD known as the Creator. And the Creator says, the whirlwind I made as a sign to man of the way of my created worlds. We're showing approval. As you see the power of the whirlwind gathering up dust of the earth and driving it together, know that likewise I bring together the Jaya, the Aja, and the nebula in the firmament of heaven. By the power of the whirlwind, I created the corporeal sun, moon, and stars. There you have it right there. Again, by the power of the whirlwind. So when the all motions speak, it's the whirlwind that comes into being. And by gathering and precipitating the minerals, the ingredients to the center of the vortex is where the place of creating worlds begin. See that? See that? And here is as above, so below. And I commanded man to name the whirlwind in the Etherian firmament, and he named them according to their shape, calling them vortices and warps. So this is the solar system up close, and this is the same thing far away. Spiraling galaxies, spiraling solar systems. It's one universal order dealing with Creator. Book of Jehovah chapter 3 verse 6 states, for each and every corporeal world I created a vortex first, and by its what? Rotation, and from the places in the firmament where it traveled, I caused a vortex to conceive the corporeal world. See that? He says, I created a vortex first. We can't talk about creation if you ain't talking about a vortex. And the proof that he created a vortex first is in the illustrations. All these pictures have vortices surrounding them, and in the center of the vortex, you see the light. You see the sun. And subjected to these vortices are smaller vortices where you get your corporeal worlds like the earth. But it says, I caused the vortex to conceive the corporeal world. The corporeal world is that which exists in the center of the vortex. And each one of these pictures is showing you a sun. The sun is the head of the solar system. Ain't no planet as the center of the solar system. You've been duped. Again, what do you see in the center of this vortex? Light, a sun. What do you see in the center of our solar system? A sun. As above, so below, as above. The macrocosm is the microcosm, and the microcosm is the macrocosm. And we can even pull up a cell. Let's do that real quick. Let's pull up an oxygen cell and show you that it's the same rules apply. How are you putting it? Look at that, an oxygen cell. Let's see if we get it. See? Same rules. Same goddamn rules. You got a center, and you got the protons and the neutrons in the center, and then you got the electrons surrounding the vortex. It's the same principle as you see here. One universal order. See that? Oahspe is showing you these things. We ain't making none of this shit up. We proving this in real time. But you can't prove to me a floating God creating anything in real time. Again, for each and every corporeal world, I created a vortex first. There go the vortex you see surrounding the planets. That's the vortex. Before that light in the center could be manifested, that vortex got to be generated first. So we showing and proving. We ain't making none of this shit up. For each and every world, I created a vortex first, and by its what? Rotation. And from the place in the firmament where it travels, I caused a vortex to conceive the corporeal world, as you see examples here. The unseen becoming seen. Because the unseen is actually this vortex, taking the minerals, condensing it, and that's how we're able to see that which is unseen. The unseen becoming seen. Book of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 2 and 6, it states, the clouds in the air I bring into view suddenly. By different currents of wind, I make the unseen visible and tangible to man's senses. And in the same way, I cause the Etherian currents to bring forth Jaya, Aja, and nebula prior to making worlds. See that? Things that man see, I created with the beginning and end. But the unseen, I made of endless duration. So it's telling you what's going on. Let's get into the solar system, the great serpent. Oahspe describes the solar system as the great serpent. So let's go into that. Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 1, verse 33, it states, verse 33, the Earth's vortex is a sub-vortex existing within the sun's vortex. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and so on are corporeal worlds, and each and all of them are within vortices, being sub-vortices also. And the combination of all these sub-vortices within and including the sun's vortex, is known by the names Great Serpent or Solar Felix, for which reason the sun's vortex was called the master. See that? The sun's vortex, because the sun is the master of the other planets. All the other planets is subjected to the sun's vortex, just like you see here in this picture here. See? See the sun in the center? See the sun in the center over here? Anything that is surrounded and engulfed in this vortex is subjected to the sun vortex. See the sun? See the vortex of the sun? All these planets are subjected to the sun's vortex. It's one universal order we're showing you. So now, again, the great serpent is described, the solar system is described as the great serpent. Book of Selah, chapter 1, verse 58, it states, Jehovah said, the sun I made as the head of a serpent, and his felix I made as the body of a serpent. Thus I made the great corporeal serpent. Again, showing you right here. He said, the head I made, and the body, the head of the sun is like the serpent's head, and the body is like the planet. So this is just an example of showing you what the Creator is talking about when it's referring to the great serpent in reference to the solar system. Again, the sun I made as the head of a serpent, and his felix I made as the body of a serpent. Thus I made the great corporeal serpent. Book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 7. To make the sun I created a great vortex, and within this vortex and subject to it I made the vortices of many of the corporeal worlds. The sun vortex I caused to rotate, and I gave it power to carry other vortices within it. According to their density position, they are thus carried forth around the sun. See that? That's what they're talking about. So when you see the great serpent in the Oahspe, it's referring to the solar system. Now, what is the Heliac model? I had a video to play, but I know my other streams. But the Heliac model, because he tried to say that the helical model doesn't support the vortex. That's a lie. The helical model shows the exact flow of a vortex. You have the sun in the center. You see the sun in the center here, and you see the spiraling planets going around the sun, just as we just described how the sun is the head of the solar system, and the planets are subjected spiraling around the solar system, or the sun. So this helical model is the same as this right here, essentially. It's the exact same thing, it's just the sun is dragging the planets, but it's still subjected to the vortex. And if you see in this video, it talks about the helical model, and what does it say? The helical model, our solar system, is a vortex. See that? So the helical model is a vortex. She tried to say it wasn't, but that's an easy debunk. And then I'm showing you reference after reference, example after example, of how the vortex produces suns, and the sun's vortex is responsible for producing smaller vortices within it. Now let's move on. The orbit of the solar system. Now, the synopsis of 16 cycles, chapter 1, verse 1 and 2 states, first, the earth travels in a circuit around the sun, which is divided into 4 arcs called spring, summer, autumn, and winter. You're familiar with that. You see that. But this is what we don't know. Second, the sun with his family travels in a large circuit which is divided into 1,500 arcs, the distance for each arc being about 3,000 years in one cycle. See that? So the same way the earth goes through 4 seasons, the sun goes through 1,500 seasons, being distances of 3,000 years for each arc. Just the same way it's 3 months for each season, well, it's 3,000 years for each arc cycle. And just as a reference referring to the galactic year, here's a reference. It says the galactic year, also known as the cosmic year, is the duration of time required for the sun to orbit once around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Now the years for this is 230 million. In the Oahspe, it says 4,700,000 years. So that's the only difference in comparison, is just the number of years. But the fact that the sun is in orbit is the purpose of bringing that up, that the sun is in the orbit. Now keep in mind, the flat earthers say that the sun is orbiting the earth, and we just showing you and proving you that that's not true. That the sun is the head of the vortex. The sun is older than the earth. That kills that argument right there. So now, just to show how you see the orbit of the sun, and then this is just an example to show like where the sun is at in its orbit. But this sun is in the midst of other celestial bodies subjected to this one vortex. So you could have many celestial bodies subjected to one vortex, and that's what we're about to read here. Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 3, verse 23, it states, in the case of double stars, triple stars, and so on, if conjoined, the center of the shared vortex, the so-called center of gravitation, is not to each one, but to the intervening center between them. The polarity of such of a group is as to the vortex. Do not think, however, that double stars, triple stars, or quadruple stars are the limit of the combination in one vortex. There are clusters of planets, hundreds of them, thousands and even millions that sometimes occupy one vortex. And here's an example of that right here. You have one vortex, here is our solar system, and you have thousands of other solar systems within this one vortex. So the Oahspe is giving you science, high science, practical science, not a floating man in space creating worlds in 6 days. That's not science. This is real science. The positive and negative force of Creator. Book of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 1, it states the all spoke, and motion was, and is, and ever shall be, past, present, future. Being positive is called he and him. The all motion was a speak. So the he and him, she tried to say at one time was a man, but we already disproved that, and we've disproven it now. So the he and him that they're referring to is the vortex. This is the he. The he is the positive force of vortexia, as it states here. Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 1, verse 9. It says, the name of the force of the vortex is called vortexia. That is what? Positive force. Because it is arbitrary, and exerts east and west, as in the case of a wheel turning on its axis. It's giving you context. Its force will be at right angles with its axis, at the extreme center of which will be no motion. So they're talking about the flow of positive energy. See that? It said right here. That is positive force. What did it say up here? What is the all motion? Being what? Positive. We're talking about the positive force of Creator exerting east and west. And then the feminine or the negative, the woman, since she's talking about thinking this is man or woman, it's not talking about man or woman. It's talking about positive and negative energy of creation. That's what it's talking about. In the book of Cosmological and Prophecy 1 and 10 it states, for which reason the north and south line of the Earth's vortex is called the M vortexia, or negative force, for it is subjected to the other. So the negative force exerts north and south, while the positive force exerts east and west. And the combination of these two forces produces what we call vortexia, produces life. This is the cradle of the beginning of creation, the vortex, the positive and negative forces. So we're not talking about a damn man or a woman. And to further disprove that, it states here, the name of the force of the vortex is called vortexia, that is positive force. What did we say up here that the Creator was? Being positive was called he and him. The all motion was a speak. So this positive force that they're talking about is vortexia. The name of the force. It didn't say the name of the man. It didn't say the name of the woman. It said the name of the force of the vortex is called vortexia, that is positive force. Being, because it is arbitrary and it exerts east and west at right angles to the axis, as in the case of a wheel turning on its axis. Its force will be at right angles with its axis, at the extreme center of which will be no force. That's why we don't feel shit and we think we ain't moving, because the center of the vortex has no force. And it gives you an example. Right here, it gives you context. Right here. It says a wheel turning on its axis, its force will be at right angles with its axis. At the extreme center will be no force. Here's an example of that right here. That's an example of what they're talking about. At the extreme center will be no force. This is the east and west. For which reason the north and south lines of the Earth's vortex is called the M vortexia, or negative force. For it is the subject of the other. As a whirlwind gathers up straw and dust, context, which travel toward the center of the whirlwind and to its poles, so do the corporeal substance incline to approach the poles of the Earth's vortex, which may be proven by posing as needles. They're described as the negative force of vortexia, or the creator. Huh? Now, another thing she tried to say is the blowing of breath was, oh, who blow breath but man? This is the foolishness, because God is a man. They can't look outside the fact of creation, outside of being done by a man. So the blowing of my breath, let's clarify that. So the book of Jehovah, the book of Divinity, chapter 1, verse 8, it states, Jehovah said, I blew my breath outward, and behold, all things are created. Now, we just demonstrated how things come into creation by vortexing current. So here's an example of the blowing of the breath outward. Now, if you look at the place of generating right here, this is the place of generating. This is the blowing of the breath. When it says, I blew my breath outward, and behold, all things are, this is the blowing of the breath right here. This is the start for the vortex to start whirling. This is the blowing of the breath. And right here is an example of the blowing of the breath. This is where the generating begins. The expression, the motion. When the all motion spoke, this is where it starts. It blows. And then from motion, it curls into a rotary, a vortex. This is when it describes the creator saying, I blow my breath outward, and behold, all things are created. The place of blowing is the place of generating. Just like a hurricane, just like a tornado, it's a place where it generates before it comes into the vortex. So again, they don't know what they're talking about. They have no clue what they're talking about. They don't know creator. Book of Eve, son of Jehovah, chapter 2, verse 13, it states, I have spoken, and my breath is floating world. My speech is written in the lines where countless millions of suns and stars travel. Look at that. It stated what? My breath is a floating world. What is this? What is this? A floating world. The breath is the generation of motion through precipitating the gases, the minerals, the ingredients into a whirlwind. That's what it's talking about. It ain't talking about no, you don't see a man standing right here doing this. You don't see Elohim standing right here doing this. Where's Waldo? Huh? Where's Waldo Elohim? We don't see him at this point. He ain't standing right where these green markers are creating this. Creator doing that. Huh? You can't fathom creator, but creator is showing you how his worlds are created and generated. Again, Jehovah said, I blow my breath outward, and behold, all things are created. Book of Divinity, chapter 1, verse 8. This is another example of that. Galaxies. When the creator speaks, vortexians go into motion, and the process of creation begins. So you have a galaxy and you have a solar system. You have one up close being the solar system and one far away being in the galaxy. Same universal principle. See that? We ain't contradicting nothing. Everything is one consistent order when dealing with creation. Now, what is the process of creating? Because we showed you how creation starts by vortexian current. The all motion spoke. We described what that motion was. It's a rotary. It's a vortex. Now we're going to go into the stages of creation after the vortex produces the celestial body. The process of creating, seasons and cycles equal prophecy. What is prophecy? Prophecy ain't nothing but a prediction. Because they were so stuck on prophecy, prophecy, prophecy. Look what prophecy means. Look at that. This is what prophecy means. Prophecy means it's a prediction. It's a prediction. It's a forecast. You see what I'm saying? It's nothing spectacular about prophesizing. Let me show you how easy it is to prophesize. I'm about to prophesize right now before you. We are in the winter season. We go into the winter season, right? Now watch me prophesize. In the next 3 months, the weathered trees that are dead will soon spring to life. And the dead tree will soon have leaves on it and produce apples and fruits. And the withered away grass that is brown will soon produce green leaves for animals to eat. The bees will come flying around. The caterpillars will appear. What am I prophesizing? I'm prophesizing the coming of spring. But in order for me to prophesize that, I got to know the seasons and cycles. See that? So this is why I put seasons and cycles equal prophecy. Because prophecy ain't nothing but what? A prediction. If you know the seasons and cycles, you can predict the prophecy. So prophecy ain't nothing big. It's a simple thing. But the way they see prophecy is based on the Bible and the time of Israel, the end. That's a small, that's within the arc cycle of 3,000 years, the rise and fall of man, or the rise and fall of a nation. That's that. You're just talking about a prophecy for a short span of time. So prophecy, basically, seasons and cycles equal prophecy. It ain't nothing big about prophecy. The 4 ages of celestial bodies, For once the vortex is created and the celestial body begins to create, there's 4 stages to creation. The time of creation, the time of inhabitation, the time of barrenness, and the time of dissipation. And these are equivalent to spring, summer, fall, and winter. And they're 144,000 years apiece, times 4 give you a total of 576,000 years, times 8 give you that 4 mil and some change. So we got mathematics and science. So here go the spring, summer, fall, and winter. So like I said, if we in winter, and I start prophesying that, oh, in the 3 months, the trees is going to start bearing fruit. I'm talking about spring. The only way I can know that is by knowing the seasons and cycles. So prophecy ain't no, don't let prophecy act like it's some big thing. Once you understand seasons and cycles, you can prophesy anytime. Book of Ashar, son of Jehovah, chapter 2, verse 6. And the time from one dawn of Dan, which is 3,000 years, from the time of one dawn of Dan to another shall be called one Danai. And Danai is 3,000 years. I'm giving you some science here. And 4 Danai shall be called one square, because this is the sum of one density, which is 12,000 of the earth years. So 1 square equals 12,000 years. And 12 squares shall be called 1 cube, which is the first divided of the third space, in which there is no variation in the vortex of the earth. So 12 squares is 144,000 years equal 1 cube. You heard about that 144,000 years. These are cosmological numbers. 4 cubes shall be called 1 sum, because it is the magnitude embrace 1 equal of the great serpent. 1 sum is 576,000 years. Coming back to what I was saying up here, see that? Each age is 144,000 years. Times 4 give you that 576,000 years, which is that 1 sum that they're talking about. See, Oahspe gives you high science to play with. See, this is like geometry and calculus while niggas are still trying to add and subtract. We far beyond you niggas. Now this is, what this is talking about right here, this is an example. Now this is the orbit of the solar system. It has 576 years equal 1 sum. So this is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So when it's stated right here in this verse, it says 1 sum right here. When it states right here, it says 1 sum because it is the magnitude embraces 1 equal of the great serpent. This 1 equal that they're talking about, this 1 equal is this right here. These are 1 equal of the great serpents travel around the Milky Way galaxy. So the sun embraces 1 equal, which is 576,000 years. That's when it states 1 sum because its magnitude embraces 1 equal of the great serpent. This is 1 equal. Book of 8, son of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 3. It states, and I examined the records of the stars of heaven and of the earth, and the accounts of Jehovah's harvest. And I perceived the bondage of the labor of the red star, meaning the earth, were of the 7th magnitude in the advance of inhabitable worlds. So the key point here is 7th magnitude. The 7th magnitude that they're referring to in the advanced habitable worlds is talking about the 7th sun right here. This is where we're at positioned. So out of these 8 gardens, or 8 sums, we're in the 7th sum. And that's what this was referencing when it said the 7th magnitude in the advance of the inhabitable world. Because while we're in the inhabitable age of a planet within, because each garden is composed of 4 ages, coming back up here. See the 4 ages? 4 of these equal 1. So these 4 equal 1 of these sums. See that? So for each sum, the earth goes through a time of creation and habitation, barrenness, dissipation, and then it starts over like the 4 seasons. And this is where we're at right now, according to the 7th magnitude. See that? So now, 7th magnitude equals 3,600,000 years from the 1st magnitude, from the 1st sum. So from this sum to where we at is giving you a total of how many years? And here's an example of them in play. So for 1 sum, the earth goes through these 4 ages. So this is like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. This is like saying 8 years. And within a year, you have what? The seasons. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. Within 1 year. So this is an inhabitable age where man was created and inhabited and extinct. Then the 2nd age comes. So we in the 7th age, or the 7th sum. This is basically saying that man has been created and went extinct 6 times within the orbit. And we're in the 7th, that's why I said right here, the 7th inhabitable world right here. When it states 7th inhabitable, 7th magnitude in the advanced inhabitable world, it's talking about we're in the 7th sun, the 7th magnitude in the inhabitable world. We're in the 2nd age. But the earth then went through 6 of these ages prior to us. So man has been created, inhabited, and extinct to the planet 6 times before we now are in this 7th stock. See that? See, the Oahspe is high science. Man been here for millions of years, but not in the way we think. Man hasn't been sitting running around for millions of years straight. It's been seasons where man become extinct to the planet and then is created again. The same way that an apple tree bears fruit this year, so the apple tree could bear fruit this year, then that tree go extinct and gotta wait till next year to bear the fruit, to bear new fruit. It's the same principles with the creation of man. See that? Now we're gonna go into the creation, the 4 ages. Book of Jehovah. Let me see if y'all still rocking with me. Y'all still there? I bet, baby, y'all still there. Cool. So now, Book of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 15 through 17, it goes into the 4 ages. First, as vapor, the vortexes carry forth, and it condenses, and its friction engenders heat, and it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. This is the first manifestation of a celestial body in creation. Because notice, it stated first as vapor. Remember when I started off with the ingredients of creation? I said in order to create, you got to have the ingredients to creation. What are the ingredients of creation? The periodic table of minerals, the elements. So first as vapor, the elements, the gases, the vortex carry it forth. And it condenses, so these minerals condense, and its friction engenders heat. And it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire. This is the first sign of creation, a sun. A sun is the first cause of creation. And you see these same suns in the center of all these vortices. You have a central sun, and then you have a spiraling vortex surrounding the central sun. And within that spiraling vortex, you have planetary worlds like ours within this vortex. But keep in mind, this is the first celestial sign. After the vortex is produced, the first celestial body is a globe of fire. See that? Just like your sun. Now, here's a precept to that, to prove that. Book of Jehovah, chapter 5, verse 14, it states, as a testimony to man, behold, the earth was once a globe of liquid fire. See that? Nor was there any seed on it. But in due season, I rained down Sema on the earth. And by virtue of my presence, I quickened into life all the living. Without seed, I created the life that is in them. The key point here is stated that the earth was once a globe of liquid fire. You know why? Because this is the first cause of creation. First as vapor, the vortex carry it forth. And it is condensed, its friction engenders heat, and it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. And there goes your example. And there goes your precept, saying that the earth was once a globe of fire. So all celestial bodies go through these same phases. The same way you was once a sperm cell and now you a man is the same way the earth was once a globe of fire before becoming an inhabitable planet for animal and vegetation. So now again, the Book of Jehovah chapter 4, verse 15 states, then it takes its place as a newly born world, and I set it in the orbit prepared for it. Next, in the next age, I bring it into Sema, for it is right for the bringing forth of the living creatures, and I bestow the vegetable and the animal kingdom. That's this phase. That's where we're at right now. See that? We're on the earth as inhabitable beings because the earth is suitable to support animal, vegetation, and man. See that? So this is where we're at right now. We're in the second age, the time of inhabitation. And then look what it states here. Next it enters, it states here, next it enters Hutu, for it is past the age of begetting, even as the living who are in advance in years. And next it enters Adu, and nothing can generate upon it. So this is an example of what we're talking about. It says there's going to come a point where the earth will be barren, where nothing will be able to generate. The same way you see barren land. Just like this. If you can't drop no seeds on this and let it grow, it's over. This is a state of barrenness. And there's going to come a point where the whole planet is going to become a barren desert. It's called the time of barrenness. And look at this is the largest, these are the largest deserts in the earth. Showing you planet. Look at the vegetation. Look how scarce the vegetation is. So when we talk about planetary barrenness, this is what we're talking about. When the earth will become barren. Look at Africa. Look how barren Africa is. Look at the greenery right here. Once this greenery go out, guess what? How are you going to support life in Africa? Or any other place that's barren? Look at America. Look at the Grand Canyon. That's barrenness. Can't nothing generate and grow out there. So what the Oahspe is showing you that there's going to come a time when the whole planet will become barren, and that's called the age of barrenness, where nothing can generate upon the planet. And then after that, then comes ooze, and it is spirited away into the unseen realm, meaning that it dissipates. And then it states what? It states what? Then cometh ooze, and it is spirited away into the unseen realm, meaning that it's dissipated back into a vapor. Thus I create and dissipate planets, sun, moon, stars. So these 4 ages is what all celestial bodies go through. The last age is called dissipation, where it goes back into a cosmic dust cloud. Precept, Book of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 6. Things that man see I create with the beginning and end, but the unseen I made of endless durations. So the beginning and ending of what you're seeing is the 4 ages that the planet goes through. And then the cosmic dust are dissipated planets. The same cosmic dust are reused to create planets. So this is like what we're talking about. When the Oahspe described this right here, then cometh ooze, and it is spirited away into the unseen realm. Thus I create and dissipate. Create and dissipate. This is the dissipation process. When the planet is dissipated. And then when it's dissipated, it looks like this. See that? And then creation starts all over from this. First as vapor, the vortex carried forth. And the process of creation starts again from what? Vapor, the dissipated planet. Vapor equal dissipated planets equal cosmic dust. See that? Oahspe gives you this understanding of creation through these 4 ages. Ain't no Bible, ain't no literature giving you knowledge on this level of creation. None of it. From the Kemetic literature to the Bible to the Quran, ain't nobody giving you this level of understanding about creation than the Oahspe. If you disagree, put your information to the test. Rival this. So now these are the cycles. These are the 4 ages. The time of creation, the time of inhabitation, the time of barrenness, the time of dissipation. And then what? The vortex starts over again, and the process begins all over. Just like the 4 seasons. See that? So you got dissipation, and after dissipation, the vortex is generated again, and so the ages, the 4 ages, recycle. And this is the same process in each of the sons or the gardens. We're in the 7th garden right now. So we're in the 7th inhabitable age, right here, out of the 8. See that? That's the equivalent of saying, like, nigga, we in spring, we in fall, we in summer. See what I'm saying? Now, the orbit and arcs. Book of Jehovah, chapter 7, verse 2 states, and Jehovah caused the earth and the family of the sun to travel in an orbit, the circuit of which is required of them 4,700,000 years. And he placed in the line of the orbit at distances of 3,000 years Etherian lights. These are your arc cycles. One orbit equals 700 million according to the Oahspe. Now these numbers got slight variations, of course, but these are just the base premise. One orbit equals 4,700,000 years. So like the same way it takes 365 days to orbit our sun, it takes 4 million some change for the sun to orbit the Milky Way. That's what that's saying, as above, so below. Again, the 4 ages, the inhabitable. Now the most important part of the 4 ages, of course, is the inhabitable age. The inhabitable age. The inhabitable age is 144,000 years. See, man ain't been running around the planet for millions of years. Man's been running around the planet for a small amount of years. We're not that old. Man being 2.3 million years old, that could be true, but it's not in this current garden. So, for example, where we at? Let me come back up. So, for example, we in the 7th garden. So if man was 2 point something million years old, it'll come back to one of these 5th or 4th gardens or 3rd gardens. But it's not like he was a million years old straight living. So if I was to pick an apple tree from 3 years ago and still contain that apple survived three 3 years, but it didn't survive in the sense that it was just living, producing fruit, spring, summer, fall, and winter. It only produced that fruit in spring and summer. And then when fall and winter came, that tree went extinct and had to wait next year to produce brand new stocks of fruit. It's the same thing with the human stock. We a new stock in the seventh garden. We're not as old as you think. One garden is 144,000 years, so the inhabitable age for man is 144,000 years. See that? The inhabitable age of a planet, 144,000 years equal inhabitable time on Earth. This is our inhabitable time. And that 144 is breaking down into two halves of 72,000 years. So we're at the midway mark. We're in the middle right here. That's the first half of the inhabitable age. This is the second half of the inhabitable age. We're at the midway mark. We're in the 25th arc cycle. From the first arc cycle after the creation of man to the 24th arc cycle after the creation of man is 3,000 years. 3 times 24 is going to give you that 72. See, we deal with math. We got mathematics over here we're dealing with. Peace, God. We deal with mathematics. What's good? So 72,000 years times 2 give you that 144. 24 arc cycles times 2 give you that 48 arc cycles. So it's 48 arc cycles of 3,000 years for the inhabitable age, which will give you that 144. See, we got mathematics. This is the timetables of prophecy. Our mathematics is way better than any one of these other niggas' mathematics. So now, first creation and the second creation in the age of Sema. Now, in the book of Knowledge, chapter 4, verse 17, it states, By Jehovah in mastery over his person created he countless of worlds, of which the corporeal earth is one, and he created the living thereon. And the time was one Gadol, 24,000 years. So right here the creators let us know that he created the living in a 24,000 year period. Now when we come back to the four ages, we're dealing with the inhabitable age, right? So this is the inhabitable age, right here. The age of Sema, the time of creation, is 144,000 years, broken down into two halves, 72,000 years, further broken down into 24,000 years. Huh? These are your Gadol degrees. They're 24,000 year periods. So from the time of creation, you have the first Gadol degree, 105, 104. These are planetary temperatures of the vortex. Because once the vortex is given a rotary, you have temperatures that start off and then it starts to decline. If you spin something, it's going to slow down. So the Earth is a vortex, the solar system is a vortex. Once given a spin, the shit will start to slow down. You spin a coin, that shit will slow down. So the slowing down are the 24,000 year periods where planetary temperatures drop. So now, these are 24,000 year periods called Gadol periods. And 3 Gadol periods of 24,000 years give you one half of 72,000 years. And another 3 Gadol periods of 24,000 years give you that second half of 72,000 years. These are the inhabitable age, giving that 144. So what did the verse state again? What did Jehovah say? Behold, he says, by Jehovah in mastery over his person created he countless of worlds, of which the corporeal earth is one. And he created the living thereon, and the time was one Gadol, 24,000 years. This is the 24,000 year period that he created man, when the planetary temperature was suitable to support man. Let's get that. So now, the first creation on the earth. So now he said he created the earth in 24,000 years. The living, meaning vegetables and animals. We are animals, so we classify in the animal kingdom. So he created 24,000. This is the first age. Remember, there's 4 ages. So we're dealing with the first age. This is this age, the time of creation. This time of creation is what this chart is right here, just broken down into years. 144 broken down into 2 halves of 72,000 years. And these 72 is broken down into 3 periods of 24,000 years. See, we deal with mathematics. So the 6th, so this Gadol degree, when the earth entered right here, when the earth was basically suitable to support animals and vegetation, is when Jehovah said, one Gadol, 24,000 years, he created the living. So let's go now. He talked about he created the living. What did he create? The first creation on earth, the serpent. This is interesting right here. Look what it states. Book of Inspiration, chapter 6, verse 8 through 15, it states, I made the serpent the lowest of all living creatures, for I gave him an element capable of destroying himself. Look at this. When the earth was encircled with poisonous gases, I created poisonous vines and weeds, trees, and all kinds of herbs growing profusely upon the earth. Now, this is before we came on the planet. He's giving you a description of how the earth was in this particular time, in the time of creation. So you have poisonous plants, and you have the earth was what? It said, look, encircled with poisonous gases. So at one time, the whole earth, this atmosphere, was encircled with poisonous gases and poisonous vines, weeds, and trees. So at this particular time, the earth was unsuitable to support man and animal, but the serpent was present. Look at this. In that way, I created the vegetable world from destroying gases and from the earth substance. And in that day, all growing things upon the earth, which I had created, were poison as to animal life. So you can't have no animals at this point, because the animals wouldn't be able to live. They would have been, the plants would have been poisonous. So Jehovah is showing you creation prior to man and animals coming on the planet. It's showing you that the earth in this particular condition was poisonous for us. Highly acidic. And then look, then I created the serpent. Of all sizes I created them, and they were poisonous also. There go your serpent, your goddamn snake, for the most part, reptile. And look what it states. The serpent I created were carnivorous, feeding upon one another. Self-impregnating I created them. Look at that. Self-impregnating I created them. So this is the first creation that created was the serpent. Before any land animal was created, the serpent was the first created animal on the planet. Because he was living at a time where what? Look what it states, right? The serpent was living at a time where it states where what? All growing things upon the earth, which I had created, were poisonous as to animal life. But then it states here, then I created the serpent of all sizes, I created them, and they were poison also. So they fit the time period. They could deal with the poison. And then it states here, they were self-impregnating. And here we have a reference where that actually happened, where it says what? Anna, the anaconda, got pregnant all by herself. See that? So this is a reference. You can check out the reference. Right there, you can look that up and do your further research how this anaconda impregnated herself. See that? We got a source. We got a reference. We ain't making this shit up. Oahspe ain't making this shit up. It's showing and proving. But look what happened. Now, so you had the earth that was poisonous really to animal life, but the serpent was poisonous and was surviving in this poisonous era. And then it states what? Thus I drove the poison of the air down into the vegetable, and from there into the animal world. Thus I purified the air of heaven. See that? Creator showing you how he do these things. He showed you how he purified the air of heaven by drawing into the vegetable kingdom. You have poisonous vegetables. And then from the vegetable kingdom into the animal world. Insects, spiders. So the very venom that the spiders have, the very venom that the snake has, comes from a prehistoric time of the earth when these things existed in the atmosphere. The same poisonous gases, poisonous in the plant. We still have poisonous plants today. So the Creator is showing you how he did it. He says what? Thus I drove the poison of the air down into the vegetables, and from there into the animal world. Thus I purified the air of heaven. He's purifying the air of heaven for what? For us, nigga. For us, for animals to be suitable to live on the planet. And look what it states. This was the first creation I created on this world, meaning the serpent. See that? The serpent was the first creation. This is deep. Now you know why the serpent is so... Even in your Bible, the serpent was floating around, although we know that's an allegorical story. But look how the serpent is referenced to the beginning, even in Genesis. And here in the Oahspe, it's letting us know that the serpent was the first creation. Prior to any other animal being created was the serpent. I said, wow, that's deep. Now after this, now keep in mind it says, this was the first creation I created on this planet. The time of falling Nebula, basically the time of falling meteorites. After that creation, look what it states. Then I overcast the earth with falling nebula, and covered up the poisons growing upon the earth. And they were turned to what? Oil and coal. Look at that. So falling nebula, falling meteorites, falling debris. Right after the first creation, this was taking place as a precept to this, as a precept to these fall, a time where these things fall and precipitate to the earth. Here's a precept to that. Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 8, verse 3 through 5 states, there is still another period to all corporeal worlds, Lutz. And in the time of Lutz, there fall on a planet condensed earthly substance, such as clay, stone, ashes, disseminated molten metals, and so on, in such great quantity that it can be compared to snowstorms, piling up corporeal substance on the earth in places to a depth of many feet, and in drifts up to hundreds of feet. So what they're telling you is that you have a time where molten debris is falling from the atmosphere, basically like meteorites, what we call meteorites today. But it was a time when these things happened more often in the earlier days of creation. So we're just backing up that it states what? Lutz was called Uz by some of the ancient prophets because it was the time of destruction. If Lutz followed soon after a Semu period, when the portion of the earth were covered with Semu and rank vegetables, it charted them, penetrating and covering them up. Most of the coil beds and oil beds in the earth were made this way. They're telling you that the coil beds and the oil beds were made from falling nebula, molten rock. What does it say right here? Falls on a planet, condensed earthly substance as clay, stone, ash, disseminating molten metals, and so on. And it said that these things are responsible for what? Creating the coal beds and oil beds in the earth were made this way. And here go an example. Look at a coal bed right here. So these things, these meteorites, these nebulas fell from the earth and dropped, and then land grew over it. And now we using these coals, coal and oils for our daily use, not knowing where this shit came from. We thinking this shit coming from the earth when this shit fell from the heavens and was covered up. And now being that it's covered up, we thinking this shit is from the earth, not knowing it fell from the heavens and then got covered up and entrapped. And now we're using these gases and resources for our daily living, not knowing this shit come from the cosmos. Ain't that some sleep shit? Look what it states here. Lutz belong more to an early age of a planet when its vortex is more extended. See that? Being that the vortex will be more extended, the atmosphere will be closer to the earth, and the condensing process of things falling like meteorites will be more common. And when the nebula clouds in its outer belt are subjected to condensation so as to rain down on earth these corporeal showers. See that? Here go another example. And it came to pass when the earth was in the midst of Taza, this is a cosmological area where the earth is traveling through, there fell upon the earth for a space equaling 12 days condensed nebula in dust and stone and water, combined sufficiently in some places to cover up forests Jehovah had made. See that? And that which fell was hot like molten iron, and the trees and forests of the valleys were beaten down and covered up and burnt to blackness. See that? They letting you know that there's times when nebulas and meteorites fall to the earth in great quantity. And look what it states here. Jehovah said, and these shall remain on the earth, for in the time that followeth, man shall seek the coil, not knowing whence it came. Huh? And it will bear witness of the regions of Ajah and Jaya in the firmament of heaven. So while you thinking the coil, the oil, you thinking this shit come from the earth. Oahspe let you know, no, this shit was showered down in earlier ages and sediment grew over it. And then now we drawing up this oil thinking, oh, we have oil in the earth, not knowing this shit descended down from the heavens. See, the Oahspe raises up mysteries of the earth. So when we go over here striking oil, we gonna struck oil, this shit rained down from the heavens. So now, let's go into the second creation. Now, all this is taking place in the first creation. So you have the serpent, the first creation, right here. It says, Thus was the first creation. Now, after the first creation, there fell these meteorites, and then starts, after these meteorites fell, it starts the second creation. This is the second creation. Look, should be. Look what it states. Then I made a new creation, the second creation. Don't your Genesis story talk about a first and second creation? Ain't that an argument among the biblical believers? That there was a first creation and a second creation? Look what the Oahspe is telling you. It's giving you a proper context. These things. The first creation was when the earth was poisonous for man to be inhabitable on. But the serpent was prevalent there at the time. Then fell nebulas. And then what? Then I made a new creation, the second creation, giving feet, legs, and bones to the animals I designed for the earth. This is an example, because the serpent ain't got no legs and feet. He's distinctly letting you know, on this second creation, I'm giving feet, legs, bones to the animals. Feet and legs in particular. Feet and legs. It's going to be part of this second creation. And we see the feet and legs of the animal. But when we come back to the serpent, right, we don't see no feet and legs. We don't see no feet and legs with the serpent. This is the first creation. The serpentine. The second creation that Creator's creating, this time, is going to have what? Feet and legs. Then I made a new creation, the second creation, giving feet and legs and bones to the animals I designed for the earth. And when the earth was ripe for man, then I created him. Male and female, I created those of the second creation. See that? We're part of the second creation. So you had the serpent, land animal, and then man. Here's an example. Use illustrations to convey the message. Now, we already showed you that the sea moon age is a period of 144,000 years, broken down into two halves of 72,000 years. 72,000 years broken down into Gadar periods of 24,000 years. Man was created in the Gadar period right here. A Gadar is broken down into 12,000 years, called an era. And an era is broken down into 4 arc cycles of 3,000 years, giving you that era. See, we got mathematics breaking this shit all the way down. So now coming back, it says the first creation. This is the first creation. Because remember, he said he created the living in 24,000 years, one Gadar. So this is one Gadar period broken down into 12,000 years, and then further broken down into arc cycles of 3,000 years. So the first creation was the serpent. You got the jellyfish there, and then what came? Nebula. Meteorites fell, and then the second creation began, creation of legged animals, and then the creation of man. All this taking place within a period of 24,000 years, broken down into two halves of 12,000. The first creation in the first 12,000 years, the second creation in the second 12,000 years, and man being the last created animal in this creation process. So we're dealing with science and mathematics, way better than what the Bible can offer you. And then look what it says, a precept. It states what? Out of Sema I made man, and man was only like a tree, but dwelling in hot darkness, and I called him Asu. So the key thing here, when I first read this, it says, out of Sema I made man. So I'm like, what is Sema? Now, as far as when I first got the Oahspe, I know what it is now, but so it's letting you know that out of Sema I made man, and man was only like a tree, but dwelling in darkness, and I called him Asu, meaning that man was in his infant state. When man was created, he didn't come into the world knowing all things. And that's the problem. You think Adam was created, just came in and just knowing all. No, he came into the world as blank as a baby. A baby comes into the world knowing nothing. A baby comes into the world crawling before it learns to walk. These are the same attributes that man was in the beginning. Book of Selah states, Asu, panic, a man in aboriginal state, before he used words. See that? Before he congregated, a very young child, one who knows no words of expression, the race of man in its first age, as applied to corporate earth, Asu, the first habitable age. So they're talking about man in this premise. So when man was created, he was created real primitive. He had to be taught speech. He had to be taught everything, just like a baby had to be taught. So this is an example, the growth of morals through the arc cycles. So in the creation of man, this was man in this baby state. This is Asu, Adam, crawling before he learned to walk. No language. And as man progressed through these arc cycles of 3,000 years, he grew just as a one man grows, so is the whole race growing in this manner. So when man was in his infant state, it was all nationalities, all nations in this infant state of existence. So that's just an example of the growth of moral school, the arc cycles. So now, the condition of man in the beginning. The book of Inspiration, chapter 6, verse 18. And man was dumb like other animals, without speech and without understanding, even less than any other creature that I created. Showing you, man was in his what? His infant state, right here. He's describing man being dumb, not knowing, being unconscious of who he is. The baby has to be taught who he is. The baby has to be taught language. The baby has to even be taught how to walk. If not, he'll continue to crawl if you don't see no example of nobody walking. Now, again, and man was dumb like other animals, without speech and without understanding, even less than any other creature that I had created. Nevertheless, I had given to man, and thus made him out of the dissolved elements of every living thing that had preceded him. So man is created out of what? The dissolved elements. What are the elements? The periodic table of minerals. Your body is made of what? Elements. Your bones is calcium and phosphorus. Your skin is copper and carbon. You see that? Your blood is iron, made of the dissolved elements. And man partook of the first and second creation. After the manner of every animal on the earth, I created man, with all the characteristics of all of them. I created him. Male and female, I created them. See that? So he's letting you know, created man in a destitute state, in a state of blankness and nothingness. And he had to add on to himself. He had to grow, just like a baby. A baby comes into the world blank, knowing nothing. And we teach the child. We educate the child. We add on to his development. And then even with the martial arts, it says what? He says, of every animal on earth I created man with all the characteristics of them. And when you look at the martial arts, you know what I mean? Tiger style. You see that? The characteristics of the animals can be expressed in man. That's what they're talking about. Man could be a snake. We use these terms, right? Man could be a lion. The characteristics of the animals expressed in man. Now, and man was unconscious of his creation, not knowing where he came from, nor did he know which was his own species. No different than this child right here. Don't know where when he came into it, he don't know where he came from. He don't know his own species, but this is the infant state of man, in this same manner as an infant child. So the Creator is letting you know where man started from. He started just like you started right here as a baby, and then you became this adult right here, but you forgot you started like this. You had to crawl before you walked. See that? So same thing with man in the beginning. Nigga, you had to crawl before you walked. And this was the purpose of the angels. He said, I sent my angels to man to teach him who he was and to rouse him up to his capabilities for which I created him. So the angels came as teachers and parents to this man having no knowledge. And my angels drew from man's side substance and thus took on corporeal forms, and the angels dwelt with man as helpmates to make man understand. So the angels playing parents to the baby to help him understand, give him speech, give him alphabet, clothe his nakedness, make him walk upright, civilize him. And the process is not done in one arc cycle. It's throughout. Even to this day, we still learning how to become mature adults. Because we still killing each other off as race of people. We ain't matured past the carnal flesh yet. So now, what is Sema? Because it's stated, out of Sema I made man. Right here. Where's that? Right here. It says, out of Sema I made man. Out of Sema. So what is Sema? Let's get that. Let's get what is Sema. So right here, what is Sema? So again, he says, place the Semuan age. So the Semuan age is basically the time of creation. But there's a substance called Semu as well. Place the Semuan age at 99 degrees Fahrenheit, the time of quickening animal life. So 99 degrees. This is the last 24,000 year period in the first age, where the degrees is 99, 199. This is where animals are created. See that? It said place the Semuan age at 99 degrees, the time of quickening animal life. So we're right here. We're right here. This is the last 24,000 years before going into the inhabitable age. So we're still in the time of creation before going into the time of inhabitation. So man was created at the ending of the time of creation. Animals. So here's the 99 degree, 24,000 years, 24,000 years broken down into 12,000 years in these arc cycles of 3,000 years. So this is the creation of Asu right here. When the earth entered this age, it was suitable to support animal life. So now, Jehovah states, in the next age I bring it into Sema, for it is right for the bringing forth of living creatures, and I bestow the vegetable and animal kingdom. And that's where we're at right now. But look, Jehovah heard the words of man, and he answered him, saying, let a sign be given to man, so that he may comprehend Semu. Biblical readers don't know nothing about no Semu, but it's talking about an age that the earth was in its early stages. And it says, Jehovah heard the words of man, and he answered him, saying, let a sign be given to man, so that he may comprehend Semu. So Jehovah caused the jellyfish and green scum, the jellyfish and green scum of water to be permanently coming forth in all ages, so that man may comprehend, so that man could understand this age of Semu. So that man could understand the age of Semu. Talking about the jellyfish. So he said the jellyfish comes from this time of Semu, this early period of the earth's development. The jellyfish and green scum. This is the green scum that they're talking about. These come from early ages of the earth that still exist today. I know y'all didn't see that before, especially if you grew up in a creek and played in the woods and lakes and creeks. You've seen the green scum before. Look what it said. When the earth and the shores by the water and the waters also were covered over with what? Commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. This substance was called Semu. So look what it states. It says, when the earth was covered over with commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. And here is an example of what they're talking about. There was a time when the earth was covered with commingled atmosphere, like fog. So that we always give you reference to what they're talking about, so you can get an idea. Look at the condensed fog in this. Look at that. This is a city. Look at the fog over that city. Look at the condensedness of this fog. Look at the fog. This is how they describe in Semu. Look at the fog. In the state of what? The state of what? This substance was called Semu. So Semu in this early phase of earth was commingled over like this. Right here. See? It says, when the earth and the shores by the water and the waters also were covered over with commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. This is an example. And this was called Semu. And look what it states. Because by the presence, Jehovah quickened it into life. And in that way, he made all the living, both the vegetable and the animal worlds. For that Semu, not that Semu is jellyfish or green scum of water. For in this day, the earth does not produce Semu abundantly. Nevertheless, the jellyfish and the green scum of water are signs of that which was in the days of the earth. So they're letting you know that the jellyfish and the green scum come from these early times during when man was created. And then Semu is commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. What is corporeal substance? Elements, minerals. So it was a time when the earth was covered over like this. And Jehovah quickened this, creating animal and man, based off the dissolved elements, based off this substance called Semu. See that? Verse 13. Such is my person and my spirit, being from everlasting to everlasting. And when I bring a new world into the time of Semu, my presence quickens the substance into life. And according to the locality and the surroundings, I bring forth the different species. For they are flesh of my flesh and spirit of my spirit. To themselves I gave themselves. Nevertheless, they are all members of my person. So he's letting you know that this substance called Semu, which is commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance, he used to quicken life. He says, when I bring a new world into the time of Semu, my presence quickened the substance into life. What are the substance? Right here it states the substance are corporeal substance, commingled atmosphere. See that? And it was over the earth like fog, like this. So the Oahspe is rendering up these mysteries of how things were created in antiquity. You know, as the precept again is stated, out of Semu I made man. Now we know what Semu is, commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. Huh? Well, it gets better. We ain't done yet. It gets more detailed. So out of Semu I made man, and Semu was commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance equaling Semu. And then the Book of Inspiration states, and thus made I him out of dissolved elements. See that? The dissolved elements are the minerals. Corporeal substance. Corporeal atmospheric, commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance, minerals. All those are minerals. And this is what we were created out of. And likewise for the substance of the animal kingdom. See that? These are the periodic table of minerals expressed in this manner of Semu, commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance, and by the quickening power, by the virtuous power of the Creator, quicken he the living, animal and man. See that? It stays here. First, as vapor, the vortex carry it forth, and it is condensed in its friction and generous heat, and it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. And then it states what? As a testimony to, As a testimony to the man, behold, the earth was once a globe of fire, nor was there any seed on it, but in due season I rained down Semu on the earth. See that? He rained down Semu. So Semu is something he rained down on the earth. And by virtue of my presence, I quicken into life all the living. Without seed, I created the life that is in them. See that? So here we have an example. The earth was once a globe of fire. In due season, he rained down Semu. By virtue of his presence, I quicken into life all the living. See that? Give you an example. He rained down Semu. When he rained down Semu, the earth was looking like this here. Huh? Commingled substance, commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. After raining down Semu, that's how the earth was covered over. And out of this substance created what? The living. See that? Your Bible ain't telling you no shit like this. It's high science here. It's for niggas who's in college. Y'all niggas still in elementary school. Now check it. Look at this. Still dealing with the age of Semu. Jehovah said, in the time of Semu, I brought forth the earth into Ajah and Jaya, and darkness was upon the face of the earth for the space of 3,000 years. And yet for other 3,000 years, half darkness covered all the land and water. So darkness was in the beginning. Darkness, it was looking like this. When man was created, it was looking like this. It says, behold, O man, as I have given to female a time to bring forth their young, so give I to the earth a time for the conception of the living species on the land and in the water and in the air above, and I call the time the era of Sema. See that? Referring to the time of creation. Coming back here. What did the verse say up here? He says, in the time of Sema, I brought forth the earth into Ajah, Jaya, darkness. It says, right, this is the key point. Darkness was upon the face of the earth for 3,000 years. And yet for another 3,000 years, half darkness. That's coming back to here, right here. Coming back to the time of Semu, 144,000 years, broken down into two halves of 72,000 years, broken down into 24,000 years, called Gadar periods. And then from that Gadar of 24,000 years, broken down into two eras, 12,000 years, broken down. And then from 12,000 years, broken down into arc cycles of 3,000 years. And the last 6,000 years of the first age is what that verse was referring to earlier when it stated right here. Jehovah said, in the time of Semu, I brought forth the earth into Ajah, and Jaya, and darkness was upon the face of the earth for the space of 3,000 years. This is the 3,000 years that they're referring to. And then over here it states, and Jehovah said, and yet for other 3,000 years, half darkness covered all the land and water. So this 3,000 years, which is 6,000 years, is the last 6,000 years of the time of creation right here. See that? So that's the first darkness of 3,000 years, and this is the second half darkness of 3,000 years. But man was created in the last 6,000 years of the inhabitable age, which is this time period. So man was created in a state of darkness. Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 4, verse 18 and 19 states, as previously stated, the vortex currents are to the earth in the daylight and from the earth in the night. Although their forces is toward the center of the earth and toward the North Pole afterward, the following result happens. Take a pool of water, for example. It is charged during the day with the positive currents, meaning positive force, the he, the him. But during the night, the negative force, the feminine, the her, the negative current escapes outward from the water. The resulting decomposition is called Semu, or maculaginous substance. How do you pronounce that? I think these words sometimes, but muciliginous substance that float on the surface of the water. So what is this substance that they're talking about? Here we have a reference. This is it. The muciliginous substance. Now, what is it? Let's do some little research. Let's cross-reference. Because it said this substance is what they described as Semu. So this is part of Semu right here. But let's see what it's talking about. Oh, there you go. What is this substance that they're talking about? What is this? It says having viscous or gelatinous consistency. So it's like a gelatin consistency, and it says of plants, seeds. But this is what it looks like. Because it's all about images. This is what we're dealing with. This is Semu, a reference to Semu, right? But then it states, it says having a viscous or gelatinous consistency. What is that? This is a vacuum. This is the consistency of what they're talking about. The gelatin consistency of this particular thing called Semu. Remember, Semu is commingled atmosphere and composed substance. See that? What is this? And then it says, viscous, having a thick, sticky consistency between solid and liquid, having a high viscosity, viscous lava. But it's a thick, sticky consistency being solid and liquid. This is supposed to be the physical makeup of us, dealing with these things. And then it stated what? In a few days, this Semu, by motion, assumes certain defined shapes, crystals, and fibers, and otherwise, like the strange configuration of frost on the window panes. A few days after this, if the Semu green scum is examined with the magnifying lens, it will be discovered that there are miniature trees, even forests, with vines and grasses. No seed was there. See that? They describing this shit. That when you look under this shit with a green scope, you're going to see this. Miniature trees and forests. This is the green scum. This is an example of what they're talking about, the green scum. See that? These things was prominent in the beginning of creation. Reference to miniature trees, referring to what they were saying. If you look in our microscope, what it say? You're going to see, hold on. It said, it is examined with the magnifying glass. It will be discovered that there are miniature trees, even forests and vines and grass. With no seed was there. They ain't drop a seed for that to happen. So look what it states right here. These are more examples. See that? And you put that shit under a microscope, and you're going to be seeing forests and trees and all that. That's what they're talking about. It states what? This new property is called life. And because it exists everywhere, it is called omnipresence. Man can account for the Semu, for the positive and negative forces, for corpor and for ether. But life is unfathomable by man. If the Semu float against the ground, its infinitesimal trees, vines, and grasses take root and grow, and live a season and die. But from their roots and seeds, a larger growth succeeds. In that way, the whole world become inhabited with living creatures. Nevertheless, not one of them merge into another, but everyone bringing forth after their own kind. So they're letting you know that this right here, this is what they're talking about. This is how vegetation grows. This is what spreads the earth. takes over the earth. The green scum, the Sema, which is plants, forests, on a macro scale, see that? This is what the Oahspe is talking about, yo. High science. This ain't no play shit. So again, the Sema family. Jehovah said, because I cause all the living creatures to gestate in darkness, and this shall be the testimony to the end of the world, that when I created life on the face of the earth, she travels in my Sema firmament. This is the Sema firmament right here. So the earth is traveling through the Sema firmament, which is the time of creation. And then during the time of creation, they're explaining how worlds are created and are prepared for inhabitation. Again, at the end of the Semoan age, that is the time of termination. That is the time of termination of creating animal life. See that? Now check this. Jehovah said, behold, I quicken the earth with living creatures. By my breath came forth all the living on the face of the earth, and in the waters thereof, and in the air above the earth. And I took the earth out of the dark regions, and brought them into the light of my ethereal worlds. And I commanded the living to bring forth by what? Cohabitation, every species after its own kind. And man was more dumb and helpless than any other living creature at this particular time. But notice, because you know, when you ask the Kemetic niggas, you know, where you come from, they say, I come from my mother and father, their mother and father. They're talking about cohabitation. That's what they're talking about. But there was a time where it states creating animal life. That's what they forget. Nigga, you are a product of creation, meaning that you have to be created prior to be cohabitation. So you have creation of the species, and then you have cohabitation of the species, which is to keep the lineage of the species going. So all these Kemetic cats are talking about, oh, I come from my mother and father. You talk about cohabitation. That's what you're talking about. But you ain't referring to what? Creating. We're showing you and proving how animals are created. Planetary temperature when it was created. The substance for creation. That's what we're showing right now. Take another chart showing man in its infancy state. It says man was more dumb and helpless than any other creature. Referring to man right here. In his infancy state, helpless. He need help. If there ain't no parent to teach this child, he gonna die from the elements. See that? So man in this condition in the beginning was like this child before growing. That's what's called the growth of morals through the arc cycles. Now, Jehovah spoke unto the angels that dwell in his ethereal world, saying, behold, I have created a new world, like unto places where ye were quickened in the life. So we let them know, I just created a new world like the worlds y'all came from. He says, come ye and enjoy it. And raise man upright. And raise man upright and give him words of speech. For these will also become angels in time to come. Will be angels in time to come. Let you know that angels are men and women. We are what we will become known as angels. Just letting you know there ain't no spookism. They already tell you that in the Hebrew that angel means messenger. Well, who's carrying and delivering a message? A person. So again it states what? He says, raise man upright and give him words of speech, for these will also be angels in time to come. See, that man is an angel. And God is a title bestowed on an angel. That's why we showed the verse in Acts, when it said the angel who spoke to him in Mount Sinai. Or what you fail to realize is that God is an angel. You just haven't been taught that. And we teaching you that. So if you ever hear any nigga talking about God as an angel from this point, you know they got it from us, because ain't nobody was teaching that. Here's a precept to show that angels are one-time people. These are from Jehovah and in him. And all angels, gods, lords, generals, captains, and the chiefs in heaven are only the brothers and sisters of both mortals and the spirits of the dead. See that? Ain't no spooky. Ain't no spookism. Grandma, grandpa who done passed on, guess what? They angels. And when they be responsible in the realm, they can take on titles as what? Gods, lords, generals, and captains. Being what? Chiefs in heaven. But these ain't nothing more than what? The brothers and sisters of both mortals. These are your ancestors they talking about. And the spirits of the dead, when your ass die, you become these beings, these angels. It's just a name. To say angel is like to say man. Mortal, human. Don't let the word angel throw you off. A lot of these niggas thinking angel, they thinking about a little baby with wings. Nah, nigga, Oahspe's letting you know what angels are. One-time man, or one-time woman, or one-time child if the child lost his life. Now, finding the inhabitable time for mortals on the earth. So like I said, here's a chart. What we just went through was the time of creation, the Semoon age. That's what we just went through. The time of creation where things are created. But now the second age is called the age of inhabitation. This is the age where man is created. This is the age where man is inhabitable on the planet. From his inhabitation to his extinction, all takes place in the inhabitable age. And we're dealing with these Gadol. See these numbers right here? 105, 104, 105. These are Gadol. These are 24,000 year periods of decline in vortexian temperature. So when the Earth declined to a vortexian temperature of 99, it states what? Place the Semoon age at 99 degrees, the time of quickening animal life. They're talking about this right here. Huh? Remember when we read earlier that the Creator created the living in 24,000 year period, one Gadol? This is the Gadol. And then it states right here, for man, look what it states for man. To find the Semoon age of man, place his temperature at 98 for optimum health. This is it right here. Animals was created first, then man. And then look what it states here. 4 below normal, what is normal? Normal is 98 degrees. That's your body temperature. 4 below normal will therefore be the end of the period of man's inhabitation on the earth. 4 below normal is what? 94. 4 below 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 90. When the vortexian planet, when the vortex of the earth reached this period, when the planetary degree reached this, as far as man's temperature, man will cease to propagate and so become extinct as to the earth. So literally, man has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Gadol degrees for his inhabitation. And these degrees give you that 72,000 years. So this is all science we're dealing with. So let me explain that with chapter and verse now. Again, Book of Cosmology and Prophecy, chapter 5, verse 17, it states, place the Semoon age at 99 degrees, the time of quickening animal life. So like what I showed you here. 99 degrees, the time of quickening animal life. Right there. So this is the first age, this is the second age. Time of creation, time of inhabitation. Both being 144,000 years. Now we're moving into the inhabitable age and the temperature, the body temperature for animal and man. Here's a reference to temperature to prove what we're talking about. Taking what is a normal temperature in dogs and cats, basically animal. It says normal human body temperature is 98.6. Normal body temperature for dogs and cats is 101, 102. And then some people and some pets maintain a baseline temperature a little above or below the average. But if a pet's temperature rises above 104 or falls below 99, take your pet to the veterinarian. He in trouble. But it says if it fall below 99, what did the Oahspe say right here? What did the Oahspe say? Place the Semoon age at 99 degrees, the time of quickening animal life. This is the time of quickening animal life. But it's stated right here. He says what? If this shit fall below 99, take his ass to the hospital. Meaning to say, his temperature got to maintain within this perimeter of 99 degrees. And it says, the normal body temperature for man is 98.6. What did the Oahspe say right here? What did the Oahspe say right here? What did it say for man? This is man. To find the Semoon age, place his temperature at 98 for optimum health. What did it say? Normal human body temperature is 98. So Oahspe is letting you know that your temperature in your body got to do with your existence. You know that, but now you know it on a whole nother scale. So place the Semoon age at 99 degrees, the time of quickening animal life. Right there. The time of quickening animal life. Then it states what? To show the reference to the animal. Got another reference? Oh, that's the same one. Alright. So we scale down. It says what? To find the Semoon age, place his temperature at 99 for optimum health. That's this. 99 for optimum health to keep him on being in the inhabitable age now. The inhabitable age. And as a reference, watch this. a fever. Now let me read this verse first. So we know that 98 is good health. But look what it states. And 102 at inflammation of death. Meaning to say that if your body temperature reach 102, nigga, you basically dead. You gonna have a fever. And to back that, a fever is a higher than normal body temperature, one of the body's temperature response to infection. A low-grade fever isn't usually a cause for concern. But look, but a temperature of 102 Fahrenheit and above should be treated. Be careful. What did the Oahspe say? And 102 at inflammation and death, meaning this, that 102 is unsuitable to support man's health. So when the vortex of the earth was, when the time of creation had the Gedal period of 102, the earth was unsuitable to support man. This is when things was poisonous and dangerous to man, when the earth was in this hostile environment. That's why it had to wait till it got down to 98 for the earth to be suitable right here to produce man. See that? All this Oahspe rendering up. And then it states this, look. After the vortexine radiation reach this period, meaning 94, man will cease. Look at that. Man will cease to propagate and so become extinct as to the earth. And that's what they're talking about here. Right here. 4 below normal. What is normal? 98. 4 below normal, therefore, will be the end of the period of man and habitation on the earth. And what did it state here? Man will cease to propagate and so become extinct as to the earth. So the existence of man on the planet is from 98 Gedal degrees to 94 Gedal degrees. This is the inhabitable age of mortals on the planet. And it states to find the Simon age of man places temperature at 98 for optimum health, good health. 4 below normal will therefore be the end of the period of man's inhabitation on the earth. So this is the inhabitable age for man on the earth, from his creation to his inhabitation to his extinction, is all based off temperature. Even today, nigga, if you go with an environment, if you go to Alaska with no goddamn clothes on, nigga, you're gonna freeze to death. So you got to be in an environment that is suitable for you to even exist. So the existence of man is 144,000 years from his creation to his inhabitation to his extinction, based off these planetary Gedal degrees of temperature in reference to body temperature. Now, we're going to go into the archaeology for a quick second. How y'all feeling? Make sure y'all still with the God. Y'all still there? Y'all still with the God? Bomb. I see y'all still there. I see y'all still there. Give me a 1 in the chat if you get this understanding. Now, going to the archaeology. I always have a trouble saying that word. Now it states, at the time of man's creation, the earth was traveling in the Ark of Wan. Now here's the Ark of Wan, right here. This is the Ark. What I just showed up there is half. This is 72,000 years, right here, what you're looking at. This is half the inhabitable age. And the time of creation starts the arc cycles of 1. And then after the creation of man, you got these 3,000 year periods, and that's how time is tracked. The earth was in the new age called Cosmological. In the Oahspe Bible, chapter 1, verse 23 and 24 states, and in the 33rd year, 1881 AD, of the angel's descent, the ambassadors of the angel hosts of heaven, in the name of Jehovah, revealed to man his heavenly kingdom through this Oahspe, making known the plan of his delightful creation for the resurrection of the people of the earth. And that's exactly what I'm showing you in the Oahspe Bible. I'm giving you a breakdown of what this book about. And this verse is letting you know how it came about, through the angel ambassadors of the Creator to reveal the heavenly kingdoms. And that's what we've been explaining. Note, Oahspe was revealed in 1881. 33 years previous is 1848, the beginning of the Cosmon era. So we're at the halfway mark of the inhabitable age. So this is 1848, right here. 1848, that makes up the 25th arc cycle after the creation of man. So now we have a way we can chart time using the time chart that we're familiar with. So we got 1848 coming backwards in history, 1st century, time of the Middle Kingdom, time of the ending of the Nakada period, and then you're going back in history and you can see the dates. See the dates? See 1848, 3,000 years prior, and these are the 3,000 years going back in history. See that? First, everything's coming to the creation of man. So, we go to the first era of civilization. According to the Oahspe, the first era of civilization was 45,553 BC, or 45,000 years ago for the most part. First era of time of creation, 43,553 BC, which is 45,000 years ago. That's when the earth entered the first era of creation. And from the creation of man, right here, to the 10th, that's 30,000 years, dealing with 3,000 years. 10 times 3, 3,000. So it states, when the earth entered the 10th arc cycle after the creation of man, 30,000 years after the creation of man, 45,000 years from our previous time, it states what? It says the 10th cycle was under Miss Celatilis, chieftainess of the arches of Oahspe, in the ark of Nu, and her harvest was 10,800,000,000. So this 10th arc cycle was under a female goddess. And when the earth entered this arc cycle is when the earth entered the first era of civilization, as it states here. And now the earth was filled with people. All the continents and islands of the earth were inhabited by man, nor were there any wilderness left where man did not dwell. They're talking about 45,000 years ago, the world was inhabitable all over. Now, here's some proof of them time periods. The Venus of Holland Fields figurine, 40,000 to 35,000 years ago. That fits this time period that they're talking about, of the first era of civilization. See that? These are artifacts, archaeological proof of that time period. Look at the time period. What does it say? It is dated between 40 and 35,000 years ago. What time period are we in the Oahspe? During this time period? The first era of civilization, what did it say? 43,553 BC. This is 45,000 years ago. What did it say right here? It dates between 40 and 35,000 years ago. It fits the same time period that the Oahspe classifies the first era of civilization, and we have evidence and proof of the artifacts right here. That's the archaeology right here. We ain't making this shit up. You can't show me nothing in the Bible that could coincide with these time periods. The first era of civilization. So again, they will reference, and it states what? But the generation of man had fallen from 33 years down to 12 years, and man and woman were at maturity at 7 years old, and not many lived above 30, but they were prolific, many of the mothers bringing forth 2 sons and daughters, and from 2 to 4 babies at birth. So look at that. At this time period, man was at maturity at 30 years old. At 7 years old, and not many lived to be above 30. 7 years old maturity. When you look at the movie like Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings is supposed to be like a pre-Diluvian time period, like the first era of civilization like we're talking about. And when you look at them hobbits, them niggas were like little kids, but they were grown men. As little kids, coinciding with what the Oahspe was saying. And man and woman were at maturity at 7 years old, and not many lived above 30. When you look at Lord of the Rings, them niggas was little hobbit motherfuckers, was grown men looking like Webster. Looking like little Websters running around. Now look what it states. And man dwelt in peace, the earth was tilled, and it brought forth abundantly everything that was good for man to eat and to clothe himself. With. In those days there were great cities of hundreds of thousands of inhabitants, and thousands of such cities in all the 5 great divisions of the earth. And man built ships and sailed over the ocean in all directions around the whole world. By the angels of the Lord he was taught and guided in all things. And man had books, both written and printed, and in schools. And the young were taught knowledge regarding the sun, moon, and stars, and all things that are upon the earth and in its waters. This was therefore called the first period of civilization on the earth. So they letting you know in the Oahspe that there was a first period of civilization. And this time period goes back to 45,000 years ago. Coinciding with what we're saying. Now, so everything we just read is this, the first era of civilization. 4353 BC, 43,000 years before the Messiah, and 45,000 years from our present time. Now here are some more references. Stone core making, fine blades, found in Israel 40,000 years ago, fitting the time period that we're talking about. Let's see. This is what they're talking about. This goes back 40,000 years. Let's get some more references. Look at this. 2 fossils of Homo sapiens dating to 40,000 to 39,000 years ago. That fits this time period. Look at that. What it say? Dating 40,000 to 30,000 years ago. And this is Homo erectus. The Homo sapiens. We just show you evidence of things of that time period. Look, 45,000 years, what they talking about? Let's see. These are all references now to the time period. Look at that. This is all referencing to the time period of the first era of civilization. Look at that. This 45,500-year-old pig painting is the world's oldest animal art. World's oldest, because it coincides with what? The time of the first era of civilization. It said this is 45,000 years ago. One of the world's oldest depictions of a pig. And the Oahspe is letting us know what? First era of civilization. Look at that. 553 BC is 45,000 years from our present time. 45,000 years, and this hits it right on the head. 45,500 years. Old pig painting is the world's oldest animal art. And it coincides exactly with the time period that Oahspe say was the first era of civilization. And we showing you the references. See, we ain't making this shit up. See that? We ain't making this shit up. Show me something coming out the Bible that go back 45,000 years and coincide with your scriptures. You can't even do that because you don't have a time period. Now look at this. 40,000 years, perhaps as old as 52,000 years. Let's see what they're talking about. I got all these references. Look at that. It's another reference. Petroglyph art. Petroglyphic art. Look at the date. What it say? Dated to be more than 40,000 years old, or perhaps 52,000 years old. Again, coinciding with the time period of the first era of civilization, showing you the petroglyphs. This is the petroglyphs before the petroglyphs of the cycle of Thor. See that? Because the petroglyphs of the cycle of Thor was reintroduced after the flood. But this is pre-Diluvian time. This is pre-flood. And we show you evidence of these things. There go more references. Look at that. Look at the time period. 30,000 to 32,000 years. That still falls in this time period. More petroglyphs. More artwork. And this is coming out of France. A lot of this shit is not even coming out of Africa. It's coming out from other places. Huh? And look at this. One of the oldest known figurine paintings, as depicted as unknown, Bovian has discovered in the Louvain, Selah. Hey, we got my name right there. Selah. Ain't that some shit? They go Selah. Ain't that a bitch? My name is right there. Selah. That's funny. But look, it's dated to 40,000 years. Coinciding with what they're talking about. Every time a nigga see his name, you know he gotta hit it. But this shit is in Indonesia. Look at that. All these pre-Diluvian time periods is around the world. We show France, we show Indonesia. Come on. France again. Look at that. Look at that. 30,000-year-old cave hyena painting found in, look, France. Look at that. Long before Egypt, long before the hieroglyphs. This is 30,000 years. And look, this hyena looked like what? The Ammit of Egypt. Let me pull up a picture of the Ammit and show you how a damn hyena they should have made the Ammit a hyena. Look at that. This is the Ammit in Egypt. This is the creature that's supposed to devour your spirit if you don't, if your heart is not balanced. Look at the hyena and look at the Ammit. Look at that. Look at the cross comparison of the image. But this is 30,000 years ago. This is not from probably the 12th century BC. And this is 30,000 years before that. Come on now. Ain't no cross comparison. I'm showing you civilization long before Kemet. Oahspe's letting you know that the first era of civilization was 45,000 years ago. And we're showing you artifacts to prove it. One more. It says, European prehistoric cave paintings had roots in the Middle East archaeology say. Okay. It states what? Dating of prehistoric layers in Mount Cave, northern Israel, supports theories that early humans culture developed in the Middle East more than 45,000 years ago, before expanding to Europe. See that? 45,000 years ago. And what did the Oahspe say that the first era of civilization was? 43,553. You put 2,000, that's 45,000 years ago. See, we ain't making this shit up. We showing receipts. We showing references of the time period of the first era of civilization that the Oahspe is talking about. Now we're going to the flood. Let's move forward. So we went from the time of civilization, now we're here to the flood. Now we're 22,553 BC. This is 24,000 years ago. We just went from 45,000 years ago, now we're dropping down to 24,000 years ago. And this time is during the sinking of the continent of Pan. And it states here, in the time of the world, 24,000 years before the Cosmological era, the great serpent being the solar system, being in the ark of Noah, in the firmament, in the Etherian firmament. Let me read that again. In the year 24,000 years before Cosmological, let me stop right there, where it states, 24,000 years before the Cosmological era, this is what it's referring to. This is the Cosmological era right here, where we're in. The 25th arc cycle is the Cosmological era. So it says 24,000 years before that will bring us to the 17th arc cycle after the creation of man, called the Ark of Noah, and this is the time of the flood. So that's what we're referring to when it says 24,000 years before the Cosmological era. And then it says the great serpent. I explained that the great serpent of the solar system, being in the Ark of Noah in the Etherian firmament. See, being in the Ark of Noah in the Etherian firmament. This is the Ark of Noah, the 17th ark. This is the Ark. And this is the solar system and the planet in that Ark, in the Ark of Noah, 24,000 years ago. So we got a time period. So this is the Ark of Noah again. This is the 17th arc cycle, time of the flood, sinking of Pan, the Ark of Noah, and this is the Ark of Cosmos, present time. So 24,000 years from our present time is when the deluge or the flood took place. And 45,000 years from our present time is when the first era of civilization take place. And 78,000 years later, the creation of man, bringing you that half age of 72,000 years. So we got mathematics to play with. So here it is again. From the creation of man to the flood is 48,000 years. From the flood to our present time is 24,000 years. 48,000 years plus 24,000 years, giving you a total of 72,000 years, a half age. See that? We got mathematics. Like I said, our mathematical time period is better than any one of these niggas. Now, again, this is the time of the flood. Let's get some artifacts from that time. This is 25,000 year old depiction of a female coming from France. This is 25,000 years old. Long before Kemet, niggas occupying, they was all over France. Look at that, 25,000 years ago, this is the image of that time period. Pre-Diluvian. See that? These are the Venus figurines, the Venus goddess, the Venus of La Soul. And look at the time period. Approximately 25,000 years ago. What did we just show on this Oahspe chart? What is the time of the flood? What is the time of the flood? 24,000 years ago. Fit in that time period of that artifact. And there's some more artifacts. Look at this. Venus of Red. This is 25,000 years ago in France. This is pre-Diluvian. This is pre-flood. This is right when the flood about to hit. We showing you the artifacts. Some more. The continent of the sinking of Pan. It was used to be a continent in the Pacific Ocean, which sunk, and that produced what we know as the Ring of Fire. This is the Ring of Fire. It's the Wikipedia of the Ring of Fire. It says, the Ring of Fire, also known as the Pacific Ring of Fire, Rim of Fire, is a region around much of the rim of the Pacific Ocean where many volcanic eruptions and earthquakes occur. The ring is a horseshoe-shaped belt about 40,000 kilometers. So right there, they just give you a quick description about the Ring of Fire. And here go a picture of the Ring of Fire right here. And keep in mind, we told you that there was a continent located in the Pacific. This continent that sunk produced these effects known as the Ring of Fire. There is no other explanation for this Ring of Fire other than what the Oahspe states, how it came about through sinking of this continent. And here's chapter and verse about the continent. This is in the book of Synopsis of 16 Cycles, chapter 3, verse 16 through 18, it states, and now the council deliberated, and after a while caused the records of the earth and her heavens and her atmosphere to be examined. And they discovered that the heavens of the land of Pan, Waga, was beyond redemption because of the great number of spirits of cannibals and the multitude of the fetals. And the continent of Pan and her heavens was as if a disease in the flesh healed over externally, leaving the root of the disease within. Accordingly, the redemption of her cycles did not remain with her, but evil broke out continually in a new way. So Jehovah said, Now will I prove the earth and her heavens. Behold, the division of Pan shall be hewn off and cast beneath the waters of the ocean. Her heavens shall no longer be tenable by the spirits of destruction, for I will render its foundation and scatter them in the winds. So here is a decree going that the continent of Pan is going to be sunken. It's going to be what? Hewed off and cast beneath the waters. See that? This is in reference to what they're talking about here. It's going to be hewed off and cast beneath the waters, producing this ring of fire. Let's further investigate. Go therefore down to the earth and provide nets and benches for receiving the spirits of darkness and for receiving the spirits of mortals, who shall perish in the waters also, providing a place in my exalted heaven suitable for them. And you shall put walls around them in heaven so they cannot escape, but can be weaned from evil. We're talking about collecting the spirits after they, collecting the souls of men after they perish. The cause of the ring of fire. Now, what is the cause? What caused this? Now, the explanation that we have in the Oahspe is this. And the end of the column, this is the description of the sinking of the continent. And the ending of the column, and the end of the Etherian column that extended down to the earth was made secure around the borders of Pan, and by the sea and high mountains to the north. So here, the key point here is, it says the earth was made secure around the borders of Pan. These are the borders, and the angels are securing a hedge around the borders of Pan. So they're creating a hedge around the continent. Let's furthermore investigate. See the hedge? The ring of fire is the hedge. And here it states, And I divided the lines. This is in the book of Oahspe, son of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 18. And I divided the lines into sections, each with 250 ships, and there were 1,000 sections, meaning 250,000 ships. And every ship was contracted 10,000-fold, which was the force required to break the crust of the earth and sink a continent. So right here, these ships, these angels with these high advanced UFOs or spaceships with technology beyond our capacity, it stated that what? And every ship was contracted tenfold, which was the force required to break the crust of the earth and sink a continent. Now we're talking about them hedging around here. They hedged around the continent, and they used it, what did it say? They contracted 10,000-fold, which was the force to break the crust of a continent and sink it. That's what produced the ring of fire. When they did this, and every ship was concentrated, every ship was contracted 10,000-fold, which is what? Look what it says. The force required to break the crust of the earth and sink a continent. God damn, nigga, we ain't got no technology to do no shit like that. But these angels is what they did. The angels did this to the continent of Pan, producing the ring of fire. So again, it states, Book of Jehovah, Book of Oahspe, son of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 5 through 9. Verse 5, Again I said, O Jehovah, deliver the earth from evil, for your glory, forever. And here, check, this is where it happens. And the vortex of the earth closed in from the rim, and lo, the earth was broken. A mighty continent was cut loose from its fastenings, and the fires of the earth came forth in flames and clouds, with loud roaring, and the land rocked to and fro like a ship at sea. So here they're letting you know, look, after they contracted tenfold, remember they contracted tenfold, which was the force to break a continent. And then it states, the vortex of the earth closed in from the rim. The rim. This is the rim of the vortex. This is the rim over here too. This is the rim surrounding the continent. This was compressed in. And then they say about the rim, what did they say? They mentioned the rim up here. It says, look, the rim of fire, right there. See that? The rim of fire. What did the Oahspe say? From what? From the rim, lo, the earth was broken. A mighty continent was cut loose from its fastening, and the fires of the earth, here, the fires of the earth came forth. Ain't these the ring of fire still active to this day? Huh? That's why the region is unstable, because a mighty continent was cut loose from its fastening, and the fire of the earth came forth in what? In flames and clouds, with loud roaring, and the land rocked to and fro like a ship at sea. So the ring of fire was a effect of the sinking of the continent of Pan. Huh? It says, and the vortex of the earth closed in from the rim. The rim. What did it say here? The rim of fire. Huh? We ain't making this shit up. We showing you cross references. You don't got no explanation of the ring of fire in the Bible. Here the Oahspe is letting you know there was a whole continent over there. Again I said, O Jehovah, deliver your heavens, which are bound like a chain to a rotten carcass. Verse 8. And again the vortex of the earth closed in on all sides, and by the pressure the land sank beneath the water to rise no more. See that? And the Corporeans went down to death, and the feudals and familiars gave up their battle. Neither did they have anywhere to stand, nor did they know how to go to any place in all the heavens, but were lost and crying out. So again it states what? What did it state? The vortex of the earth closed in on all sides, and by the pressure the land sunk beneath the water to rise no more. And that's what you have right here. That shit was sunk underwater by these extraterrestrials, these high advanced Etherian angels. Using what? The vortex. You remember I told you the vortex is the foundation? See, they talking about the vortex of the earth. You can't talk about doing anything to the earth if you don't talk about the vortex first. So it says what? The vortex of the earth closed in on all sides, and by the pressure, you remember they used it 10,000 fold to crack the crust of the continent. That's pressure. It said the land sank beneath the waters to rise no more. There go the evidence. What was left was called the ring of fire, the rim of fire. Due to the hedging, compression, and sinking of the continent, that's the remnants left behind. Yeah, we making this shit up. Now let's move down the line. Now we come into the cycle of Thor. This is the last one, and I'm done for the archaeology. So we're petroglyphs, 15,000 to 12,000 years old. What are petroglyphs? I explained. Petroglyphs are what? Petroglyphs are images carved on the surface of rocks. That's what petroglyphs are. And that's what the cycle of Thor was about. The cycle of Thor was teaching me the petroglyphic system. They go the cycle. You see the cycle is 3,553. So this is 15,000 years ago, and that's the 20th arc cycle. So we went from the 10th arc cycle from the first era of civilization 45,000 years ago. We showed archaeological proof. Then we went to the 17th arc cycle, the sinking of the continent of Pan. We showed proof of the rim of fire being evidence of that. And now we're going into the 20th arc cycle after the creation of man, called the cycle of Thor, which is the cycle where man was given the petroglyphic system of writing from the flood. And this is the Thor of 13,000 BC. This is the Thor of Norse, not the same person, so kill that. So again, what was the purpose of Thor? God foresaw that the knowledge of one generation could be handed down to the next by altars and temples, by idols and images, and by painting signs and engraving words. And though all these things are in fact false, as a written word is not a word, but an image of an idea that has been spoken. So by symbols, God conveyed the living truth. And this is the origin of your hieroglyphic system, Paleo-Hebrew, all that comes from this. God said, behold, with my sacred people I have established myself in the written words. Now it has come to pass that all races of man on the earth shall be made to know me. God commanded man to make stone and wooden images and engravings also, and everything upon the earth. And so man made them according to his knowledge. He made them. And God said, as every living creature has a name, so shall its image and its engraving have the same name. And so shall it be with all things on the earth and its waters and the air above the earth. The image and the engravings shall have the same name as the real thing themselves. So they explain to you what man is developing in this particular system. This particular arc cycle. And God sent his angels down to man to inspire him in the workmanship of images and engravings, and man thus accomplished the commandments of God. And then it states, these were the first writings since the flood. See that? It says since the flood. But prior to the flood, I showed you petroglyphic systems. But after the flood, these were the first writings since the time. It says, and these were the first writings since the flood, other than those that were kept sacred amongst the islands. And the writings were in the following manner, namely, and it's going to give you an explanation of the system. A picture of a man was a man, a picture of a tree was a tree, a picture of a bird was a bird, and so on. Everything represented by its own name and image. See that? And here goes the source. I already showed you the source of North America petroglyphs. Right here. It states what? It says North America, oldest known petroglyph discovered in Nevada. And look at the time period that they give this. Ancient North America gouged elaborated rock art into a heap of big boulders northeast of Reno, Nevada, more than 10,000, perhaps 15,000 years ago. That's the time period that they placed on this petroglyph right here. And it fits the exact same time period that we're talking about right here, the cycle of Thor, 15,000 years ago. See that? So we're showing you reference to what they correlate to. So this is in America 10 to 15,000 years ago. Somebody had to be here to do that 15,000 years ago. And then you have a 12,000-year-old painting found in Colombia, a petroglyph, as you see here, fit in the same time period, 12,000 years ago. And this is the petroglyph. See that? It says what? Ancient artists create the work between 12,000 11,000 years ago. This is what we're dealing with, family. These are petroglyphs. These are older than hieroglyphs. So can we say that the hieroglyphs, the Egyptians stole it from these people? If you were to play that game? This is older than the hieroglyphs of Egypt. This is 12,000 years ago. The oldest manuscripts coming out of Egypt dealing with the hieroglyphs is dealing with what? The Nakada period, 4th century, 5th century, 4th century BC. 4th century BC ain't got shit on this. Huh? Look at that. This is long before your Egyptian hieroglyphs. This petroglyphic system of writing, of communication. And what's the time period again? What's the time period? 12,600 to 800,000 years ago. Come on, man. Long before Kemet. So now we got a Nile. Now here we got something on the Nile. See that? Well, we just showed you right here. This is in what state this in? What country? This is in Colombia. This is in Colombia right here. And this is in the Nile rock art at least 15,000 years ago. This fits the same time period we talking about. The petroglyphs of the cycle of Thor. This is long before ancient Kemet. Long before Kemet. So this is 15,000 years ago in the Nile, in Egypt or Africa, and this is 12,000 years. Same system, different parts of the world, coming from the cycle of Thor, the petroglyphic system. How petroglyphs are used. See, how are they used? So if we were to see the symbol, look, these bulls are facing one direction. Let's get that. How are the petroglyphic system used? The Lord's 4th book, chapter 1, verse 8 through 11, states, Then God said, when you have made the picture of a spear, behold, it is a spear. And when you desire to show which way a man goes, you shall add to the graven image the likeness of a spear, and the what? The way it points shall show the way man goes. And you shall express the going of everything on earth and in the heavens in the same way, with the spear showing its direction. That's the communication of the petroglyphic system. So for example, like I said before, if I'm looking at this, now this is a petroglyph carved in Utah. So if I came to this as a hunter-gatherer and I want to go find some deers or some sheep, I know to go this way because the direction is showing me one way. Same thing with this in Namibia. If I was a gatherer hunter and I see this petroglyph Notice all the images of the picture are going in one way. And even when you study the hieroglyphic language, let me see if I can pull up, no, that may take some time. If you pull up a hieroglyphic script, if you pull up a hieroglyph, let me see. How you spell it? Hieroglyphs. You know, that's what makes hieroglyphics, right? If you look at the hieroglyphics, right? In order to read this, look at the hieroglyphs right here. Notice, look at the birds. The birds is in one direction. Look at the birds down here. It's in one direction. Meaning to say that when you read hieroglyphs, even the snails, one direction. Meaning to say, if they're pointing in this direction, you start reading from this side. That's what it's saying. Look at the sister, look at the queen. She's pointing in this direction. Look at these. Everything is pointing in this direction. Meaning to say, you start reading the hieroglyphs from this point coming this way. From right to left, or left to right, based on the direction of the glyph. Same thing with these glyphs. Notice all of them are painting this way. So you'll start from here, coming like this, and they go to cartouche with some of the pharaoh's names. So the same system that you find in the hieroglyphs is the same system of communication long before the hieroglyphic system dealing with the petroglyphs. All these are facing in one direction. So if I was a hunter-gatherer and I wanted to gather some sheep, some giraffes, some lions, if I want to go kill some animals to bring back to the family, I know that the animals is in this direction because the petroglyphs is showing me the way it points. What did the Oahspe say? The way it points is how you determine where it goes. See, with the spirit showing its direction. Instead of the spirit showing its direction, it's just showing you the animals in the direction. The animals is playing as the spirit pointing in the direction in order to hunt. See that? So that's Utah, this is Namibia. Same system. This is the precursors of your hieroglyphic system, the petroglyphic system. And it states here what? God said, this shall be called the panic language. AOCO God. Earth language. Because it is made of earthly images. And in the later times, whoever desires to find the first writing words of man shall have recourse to the pictures of all things on earth, in the waters and in the air above the waters. Notice, it says if man want to find the first writing words, he's going to come to these. Not the high. He ain't going to come to this. He ain't coming to this. This came much later. He going to come to this. The petroglyphs. These are the oldest systems of communication of writing. From these systems came the other systems of communication, of writing. And God said, as the ancient times man named all things according to their own spoken words, and the sounds uttered, so in the days of Thor, the written words of everything on earth and in heaven came to who? The gods. Now keep in mind, this time period I just showed you is 15,000 years ago. And we showed you petroglyphs going back to that time period, 15,000 years ago. And it states that these things came to the gods. Now, who are the gods? Who are these people? These are our people in the Oahspe. Look what these people are in the Oahspe. This is in the Lord's third book, chapter 1, verse 29. It states, now, when these hairs grew to be men and women, behold, they had the gift of prophecy, and of seeing visions, and of hearing the voice of the angels of heaven. And they were called Gan, signifying goodly shaped men, or goodly shaped women is too. So this is where you get the Gan from, right? When it states right here, and it came to the Gans, these are the people they're talking about, the Gans. Now look at the description of the Gans right here. Look at this. The Angwi Gans came settling into the world. By thousands and thousands they came in the north, south, east, and west. And look what it states. And they had long hair, black and coarse, but their skin was brown, copper color. Huh? And their arms were short like the irons. Very proud were the Angwis, the Gans. They were not mixed with the Ahuans, and they dare not mix with the sacred little people because of the Lord's commandment. But look what it states here. It states that they were what? Brown and copper colors. See that? Oahspe ain't discriminating. And this is talking about the petroglyph era, 15,000 years ago, and it's telling you that copper skin and brown people are the ones responsible for producing these scripts you see right here called petroglyphs. The Oahspe is letting you know that your ancestors made these things up. The Oahspe is telling you that. The white man's Dennis book is telling you that 15,000 years ago, black people produced these petroglyphs. Oh man. And with that, that's the lesson for today, family. That's the lesson I was going to present in the debate against Naphtali. And as you can see, they would have had no legs to stand on. Cross comparison to science, cosmology, archaeology, and prophecy from the Oahspe compared to the Bible. As you can see, there is no comparison. There is no comparison, family. You dig? You know what I mean? And that's the lesson for the day. Give me a 1 in the chat if you getting this understanding. You know what I mean? Give me that 1 in the chat if you getting that understanding. I see the what's coming in. And that's what we talking about, family. This is why the Oahspe is potent. See what I'm saying? Can't no biblical book break down what we just broke down from the Bible like the Oahspes just gave you. You know what I'm saying? We gave you science, the cosmology of science. We showed you how worlds. We showed you we start off with the ingredients, what it takes to create worlds, and the ingredients, the periodic table of elements. We showed you that. We showed you the all motion. We showed you the direction that the all motion flows in, which is a rotary, a vortex. We showed you from a vortex that our worlds are created, and then these worlds have 4 ages that they grow to: a time of creation, a time of inhabitation, a time of barrenness, and a time of dissipation. And then the process starts all over again. But the most important time is the time of inhabitation, because that's the time that vegetable and animal life is supported on the planet. And we ran through the archaeological evidence of that time period, from the creation of man to the first urban civilization to the time period of the flood to our present time, based off increments of 3,000-year periods. Y'all niggas ain't got no legs to stand on coming against the Oahspe. Show me cosmological science coming out the Bible on this scale. This is why your girl Naphtali would have lost the debate, hands down. That's why she backed out. Because if I would have presented this information in the debate, it would have toppled whatever she came with, hands down. And with that, I'm out of here, family. It's a vibe. You know what I mean? I just want to drop this lesson. And we out. Until next time. You know how we do. But before I go,
Bittersweet herbal. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com. Bittersweet herbals. What it tastes is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
make sure to get your business, family, and your boy Selah Shalom is out. Salute until next time.